Wesley Cunningham, Frisco ISD. We show you registered as Wesley Cunningham on behalf of Frisco ISD. You're the Associate Deputy Superintendent, and you'll be testifying on the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Okay. Good evening, Chairman Buckley, Vice Chair Allen, members of the committee. Thanks for having me back again. I am Wesley Cunningham, Associate Deputy Superintendent for Frisco ISD, and testifying on the bill, not for or against. I'd like to start off by making sure the record reflects some facts. We are disappointed that Representative Patterson felt the need to disparage Frisco ISD while laying out his bill. We're actually here to express appreciation for this bill. Contrary to his comments, we have twice updated our policies and practices, including creating an expedited review for allegedly obscene content and increasing parent participation in the reconsiderations. We have not sat back and required parents to identify titles. Instead, our incredible librarians have spent the past year reviewing every one of the more than 300,000 individual titles in our collections. That work has adjusted the availability for hundreds of books, including fully removing 80 books for having obscene content or not being age appropriate. We have published all the work we've done online for our entire community to see. Despite the comments made about Frisco ISD earlier this evening, we do agree that this bill helps address the problem. We absolutely do not want sexually explicit library books available in our school libraries. We expect that some of the structures established in HB900 will assist us as school districts accomplishing that goal. We've been working on this issue in Frisco ISD for over a year, and in our first meeting with Representative Patterson, February of last year, we identified the main problem to him as being that we rely on third parties to determine whether particular content is age appropriate because we do not have the capacity to individually read every title prior to purchase. We let Representative Patterson know that our standard practice was to rely on these third-party professional reviews, but sometimes they didn't get it right. Over the next few months, we learned that some of these entities were consistently reviewing content positively when we did not feel they met the appropriate level for our students in our libraries. This bill solves that problem by providing school districts with reliable information about whether a book contains sexually explicit content and allows us to make sure we achieve our goal of providing high-quality library materials without inadvertently exposing students to material that's not appropriate in the school setting. We genuinely appreciate Representative Patterson hearing our feedback on the root cause of the problem and proposing legislation to address it. This bill also takes the decision of what is patently offensive out of districts' hands. Districts are caught in the middle sometimes of several different sets of community standards, and we have probably received just as many emails raising concerns about removal of certain library materials as we have from people concerned about books in our libraries. This bill sets a standard that must be implemented by vendors and for which they are held accountable and allows our school libraries to be taken out of the middle of this debate and get back to the business of enriching students' educational experiences and fostering a love of reading, which is what they're all about. Finally, we value parent access to library materials, which is why our entire collection can be viewed by all our parents on our website. And we're working to make that access even more robust by working with our checkout system software to add features that will give parents and guardians more control over the materials their students can check out. Thank you.
All right. Members, any questions for this witness? All right, Representative Schaefer.
Thank you for your testimony. So when Representative Krause published the list, I forget how many books were on it, something like 300 or so?
I do not know.
Okay. How long after that did Frisco ISD begin to take action?
We started this process back in I think I might have this for you. Back in the spring of 22.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once you were aware of the books, how long did it take before some of the books were removed?
Which books are you speaking of, sir?
Excuse me?
Which books are you speaking of, sir?
Well, you said that you had removed 80-some books.
Yes, since this past year, yes, okay. Since the school year started.
So once you were aware that the questionable books were in your library, how long did it take before they were actually removed?
When you say questionable books, I'm not sure what you're speaking about.
You said that you removed 80 books.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about...
So that started this school year. Let's start beginning of the 22-23 school year. That's what I'm talking about right now.
Okay, so those books were probably on the list that Matt Krause published.
I don't know.
So from the time that your school district became aware of these books, how long did it take you to remove them? These 80 books?
Roughly 6 months.
6
to go through, well, the list you're talking about. I'm talking about the list, the process that our librarians went through to look at what's in their entire collection to see what should or should not be there. This has nothing to do with anything that was challenged or anything that's on this list that you're speaking of. of Matt Krause's list. I'm not talking about that list.
So did you all review that list that Matt Krause sent to see if you're,
We received his list.
you received it? And did you then,
We did not follow his directions, no.
so when the Matt Krause list was published, did you begin a review of the list that was on that Matt Krause published?
No, sir.
Why not?
Wasn't, we have a process that's in place. We have local policies, EF local, EFA, EFB local, designed to review books, and we follow our processes.
Took 6 months.
Yes, we have 300,000 individual titles in our library, sir.
Would you be comfortable with a small child wandering in there during that 6 months and reading one of those books?
I have great faith in our librarians and our administrators.
No, let me ask you a question. So during that 6-month period of time, if a child was to go in there and pull those books that you now acknowledge were inappropriate, and they're 80, I'm quite frankly just flabbergasted that your school district took so long to take action on something that seems so obvious.
Okay.
I mean, was there some law that prevented you from taking quicker action?
No, we have a policy for review of instructional materials, and library books included. And we have a process in the district for weeding books, which is kind of what you're talking about. And I've said before, we've edited that and tweaked that and adjusted that based on community feedback. And so I'm not answering your question clearly.
Okay, so the list that Matt Krause published,
Yes,
are there still books that are on that list that are still in your libraries?
I do not know. I don't have the list in front of me.
Well, that was a very, high-profile list. And
Yes.
so you don't know whether you don't know what your school district's done with those books.
I want to say it again.
After
I do
all
not
this
have that list in front of
process,
me.
you don't know.
If you want to go look on the online, you can look at every book yourself, and you can see which books are there and what not there.
Wow. Thank you.
Representative Hinojosa.
Was Matt Krause your legislator for your district?
No.
Do you know who he is?
Legislative district, one of them.
Do you know who Matt Krause even is?
Yes.
You do, okay.
Yes.
So is there something in law or policy that would compel you to listen to what a legislator who is not a legislator for your district would decide are books that should not be read by children? Is there anything in your policy that speaks to that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And so I just want to commend, I don't know, I didn't give Matt Krause's list any kind of credibility. I don't know one way or another, busy with other things, just saw something happen, but I didn't go and check out every book that he listed. A lot of legislators I put out social media on all sorts of things, and most people ignore it, as I would expect, and as I would hope would happen with so many politicians. And so I would actually want to commend you on following a policy and not knee-jerk responding to a politician's social media proclamations about what is or is not appropriate for children to have access to.
Thank you.
Have you been shocked or surprised at some of the titles and some of the books that were in the libraries? I mean, just as an individual, not as a superintendent. I think
it's fair to say yes. There were a few titles that slipped through that we were like.
And I understand school districts have a process,
Yes.
but I think, because I've seen districts handle this many different ways, and sometimes falling back on the process. I think there are some books that are some close calls. I mean, I can think of some my kids read. I think others really shouldn't be a 6-month process. I think that they should be removed from children, and then maybe a process at some point. But also asking parents to do some of the things that some districts have done as far as reading and highlighting and suggesting alternatives. To me, it's just felt, I don't know, like kind of self-inflicted wound, if you will, on a school district. But I hope we can agree that when a sexually explicit material is available to children, that, policy be dang, we're going to make sure kids don't have access to it while we take care of that.
Yes, and we do. And one of the things that, if the question I was asked was how long did it take all those books through, it didn't take us 6 months to get the overtly sexually explicit, obscene books out of that. We created an expedited review process to get those out immediately. The totality of the books I was speaking to is where I was talking about that amount of time, and that includes books that were at one level that might have been moved to another level. There's lots of nuances here, and so I would agree with you on that. That we've continually edited and tweaked our process so that we can protect our students.
All right, Representative Schaefer.
Are you familiar with this book, The Perks of Being a Wallflower?
Yes, sir.
You are?
Yes.
And is this a book that your school board has chosen to keep in your library?
It is currently in our high school libraries, yes.
Okay, would you be
That
comfortable?
went through the entire instructional, entire the EF process.
Would you be comfortable with me reading excerpts from it out loud in the committee?
Yes,
Would you be comfortable with me reading if there were children in the audience?
it's rated for high school students.
Well, how old do you have to be to
Our
be in high
district.
school?
13, 14.
Okay, so if there's a 13-year-old, if the room was full of 13-year-olds, would you be happy with me reading this out loud to them?
I can speak to the community standard in Frisco ICD, and it went through the whole review process and was cleared to remain on our shelves in high school. That's all I can tell you. You're asking me as an employee of Frisco ICD, I'm giving you my answer.
If a teacher was to read this aloud to a room full of 13-year-olds, boys and girls sitting next to each other, would you be comfortable with me reading this out loud?
It's available in our libraries in our school district right now for 9 through 12 grades. So yes.
You would be comfortable with that? I would not be comfortable with having my student in your school. I think this is one of the most unbelievable things that adults have just gone off the rails in leadership of your school. If we're at a point where you think this is appropriate for 13-year-old boys and girls in your high school.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Members, any additional questions? All right. All right, thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Lucy Pymore.
Yeah, if we haven't already called out those three.